What's up, guys? We're coming at you with an extra episode this week. We got my boy Andy back on the show, the Flex Friday amigo. And I say amigo because look at where Andy is today, straight out of a Pablo Escobar movie, man. Andy, where are you? And I'm loving the shirt. I'm loving the cigar.
Thanks, man. I'm in a undisclosed location on the west coast of Puerto Rico. Got to keep it vague. Got the cigar. Got the bevy. Got the bulletproof vest. So it's all the stuff that you need.
Got all the essentials there. Yep, got all the essentials for a fantasy football video. I'm staying safe here in Austin, but Andy's out there in the trenches getting the information we need for the upcoming season. So I'm bringing Andy on today to talk about someone that I think a lot of people have interest in this offseason, especially Andy, who absolutely loves this player going into next year. And so today we're going to be talking about our boy, Anthony Richardson. So Andy, what about AR is something that you believe could really make this guy one of the next big fantasy studs, just kind of moving forward with his career?
I mean, it starts with the rushing. I think he showed last year how dominant he can be on the ground. I mean, some of those runs, there's one, it was to get a fourth down where he just ran through like three people. He was stopped dead to rights, 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he just willed himself to get a first down. 4.43 40 at 250 pounds. I mean, that's like Derrick Henry size and speed. Dude is an absolute monster there. And for fantasy football, I mean, that's like your golden ticket. I mean, if you look at Josh Allen, QB1 last year, Lamar Jackson, top 4 QB, 1 MVP, Jalen Hurts with all those rushing touchdowns, like that's how you have a truly elite fantasy quarterback, is the rushing. And then I went back, I watched all of his game film from the 2 games that he played start to finish and was more impressed with his throwing than I thought I would be. He's got an absolute rocket of an arm. And he does have some issues. Sometimes the accuracy isn't always there. His footwork can be a little bit inconsistent. And sometimes he absolutely uses that cannon when he's trying to check down to the running back. But I mean, he can still read defenses. He can make quick decisions. He's great at buying extra time and can make really weird throw angles. I mean, in that first game, he was getting sacked and like underhand pitched it to his running back. It wound up being a completion for like a 3-yard loss, but just like the strength and the ability to process that he could still get that ball out. Kind of scary because that could have been a horrible play if that went wrong. But, his ability to create things when there's nothing there, both as a runner, and then he's not always trying to rush when he goes out and scrambles. He's still looking downfield, trying to hit guys. And when the accuracy is there, I mean, he can make throws that not every quarterback can make, fit into really tight windows. And the crazy thing is he is still 21 years old. He would be the 3rd youngest quarterback in this draft class. So he's still got lots of time to develop and to hone in those little things, like get his footwork on point, work on the accuracy just a little bit. And if he can make those little changes, then, I mean, fantasy football, top 5 quarterback seasons incoming, potential to be like the quarterback 1 on the season. There's only so many guys who be like, okay, this guy could finish as the best quarterback in fantasy. And I think Anthony Richardson in the next few years is one of those guys. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely basically agree with everything you said. I mean, there is a reason this guy is currently a top 10 quarterback on KTC and basically a top 10 quarterback in like consensus rankings and basically everyone who's kind of been updating their rankings throughout the year. I mean, as we talked about last year with Richardson, he just fell in the perfect spot. The head coach who came over that really helped Jalen Hurts explode. Like, I don't really think we need to overthink Anthony Richardson. If he played all of last year, he would be right next to Stroud in the QB rankings. Really, what is holding him back is that we only saw 3.5 games. So when I knew we were doing an AR video, I went and did some digging just on his fantasy production last year. So he played in 4 games, but he basically 3. The 4th game, he got hurt and basically went out. And he even missed some pieces of the other games.
Yeah, it was like 33% snap share in week 2 when he went out too, and still 2 rushing touchdowns in that game.
Yeah. So even if you give him just the first 3 games, which like you said, he basically only played a third to a half of even one of those 3 games, he had 22.66 points per game in those 3 games, which would have been good for QB2 in points per game. Now, that is a tiny sample size, and obviously throughout the season, and we're not banking in other plays that other quarterbacks missed, and you know, that's not the perfect thing, but QB2, let's just say 2 through 6, that's exactly what we're talking about. An elite quarterback 1 who is in the perfect system with great weapons, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. They've been hyping guys going there in the draft even. I've seen Brock Bowers in mock drafts going to Indy. I've seen free agents mocked to Indianapolis. So I think it is wheels up for Anthony Richardson this year. So for a fun exercise to kind of gauge the value of Anthony Richardson, I'm going to ask Andy 3 different trades on KTC that I kind of put together that I think are a very good way to gauge where Andy specifically is at, or just where we, a community, are at on the value for Anthony Richardson. So this one is as simple as it gets, but I think it is a great question. Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams? Basically, would you trade the 1-1 for Anthony Richardson, or do you think Caleb Williams is the guy moving forward if you have that elite asset?
I mean, here's the thing. If Anthony Richardson stays healthy, if he can protect himself a little bit better, it's, for me, Anthony Richardson hands down. And that's not saying I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be a great quarterback, but especially for fantasy, rushing is so important that, you know, I think this is a pretty even trade. I think this is one where keep trade cut is pretty close. I would probably lean Richardson just because we've seen it in the NFL. And now I think Caleb is going to be great, but you know, there's still a little bit of a question for all these guys coming out, no matter how great of a prospect is, will it translate in the NFL? Because every year there's a few guys who are so highly recruited. This guy's going to be the next great player, and it just doesn't work out. They can't make that transition to the next level. I think Caleb will. I think most people do, but I lean Richardson, but this one's really close.
Yeah, I'm going to take a cop-out answer of I think if the remainder of my team is ready to go, I'm going Richardson. If I have Bijan from last year and now I have Richardson coming back, and let's say you landed Tank Dell and Rashid, let's say you rebuilt last year, I think Richardson's probably better for your team, because if you hit on some rookies and the rest of your roster is looking pretty good and like you're starting to be a competitive team, I think Richardson probably outproduces Caleb. I think if you're full rebuild and you've sold these assets, I think you probably just stick with it and see what Caleb Williams brings you. But like you said, I mean, there's a reason these guys are neck and neck. This has Caleb as QB8, AR as QB9, but they are 30 points out of 7,500 away from each other. I think those values are pretty good. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty fair trade. If I saw that go down, I think I would totally understand it. So the second one I think is a very good example too, because let's say this one, we have Anthony Richardson for Tua Tagovailoa and the 110. So let's say you got knocked out in the semis last year with Tua, so you have the 110 and Tua. Do you think adding Anthony Richardson is a bump to your team's potential to win next year? Or do you think holding with Tua and then drafting that additional rookie at 110 increases your chances?
I would smash the Anthony Richardson side at this one, like hands down. And I think Tua is a solid fantasy quarterback. He's got great weapons. It's a great scheme, but I don't think he's going to finish. I don't think he has the potential to finish as a top 5 guy. Anthony Richardson gives you that elite quarterback play. And if you want to win a championship, you need guys who finish in the top 5 at their position. You know, if you don't have a quarterback who's finishing there, you need 1 or 2 receivers who are absolute monsters. You need a running back who's great. And I mean, Anthony Richardson can be that guy. So even though, you know, there's still a lot of guys I would like at the 110, I would take the Richardson side here for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think the points per game for Richardson is just going to be way too high compared to Tua, who, even though Tua had a very good season last year, he was still like quarterback 13. Like that's a good player, but that's not winning you your championship. And just like you said, I think the 110 is good. I think for me to take this trade on the Tua side, I think that would have to be like 1.7, 1.6. And then I think I would start to be like, okay, like I'm getting Tua and Jaden Daniels. I'm getting Tua and Malik Neighbors. And you start putting an actual name where 110 is a little too hypothetical for me, where it's kind of just out of that tier break. And it's just a little too far down for me. So last trade of the day, and I even made this one an overpay because what I saw when I entered something was like, it was like 1.3 in like a second. And I was just like, that's not even realistic. Like no one's going to take that trade. So I even upped it to basically 1.3 and 1.12 for Anthony Richardson. Which side are you on here, Andy?
I mean, I think you see it coming. I think I like the Richardson side more. This is close because, I mean, at 1.3, that's probably like Jaden Daniels or Malik Neighbors and then a later round guy. And it's kind of like with Caleb Williams, there's still questions about these guys coming out. And there's still questions with Anthony Richardson. It was a small sample size. But what I saw him do against NFL defenses and how I saw that they're drawing up plays in the red zone for him to run the ball, like pass read options where he's got one or two guys going out on routes, checks it real fast. If it's not there, he takes off, and that's how he scored 2 of his touchdowns. So the usage that he has where they built their offense around his skills, it's just, I think, too much for me to pass up for, especially right now. We don't know where these guys are going. We don't know what kind of weapons they're going to be surrounded with if you're looking at a quarterback or even some of the receivers. I mean, I think this is a pretty close trade, but I would still lean Richardson just because I feel like there's a better chance I am getting that elite value.
Yeah, I think what we are really banking on, and I think what we're in agreement is that once Richardson hits the field again, I just think people are going to realize if he's scoring 4th in the league in points per game, I think people are going to be like, oh, that's why I held him. And like, that's where the value really is. So thank you guys for tuning in today to talk about Anthony Richardson, the next superstar. Andy, thank you for joining us from the beautiful scenery we were able to get. And we'll have Andy on again. And guys, keep tuning in. We're doing 3 videos a week. This one's probably even going to be an extra video. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you soon.